I mean, I think that it took too long for us to stand up our flow tracking group that has now made these more accurate ranges of calculation. Now, keep in mind that that didn't change what our response was. As I said from the start, we understood that this could be really bad. We were hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. And so there aren't steps that we would have taken in terms of trying to cap the well, or skimming the surface, or the in situ burns, or preparing to make sure when this stuff hit shore that we could minimize the damage. All those steps would have been the same even if we had information that this flow was coming out faster. And eventually, we would have gotten better information, because by law, the federal government, if it's going to be charging BP for the damage that it causes, is going to have to do the best possible assessment. But there was a lag of several weeks that I think shouldn't have happened. Okay. Helen Thomas.
Mr. President, when are you going to get out of Afghanistan? Why are we continuing to kill and die there? What is the real excuse? And don't give us this Bushism, if we don't go there, they'll all come here.
Well, Helen, the reason we originally went to Afghanistan was because that was the base from which attacks were launched that killed 3,000 people. And I'm going to get to your question, I promise. But I just want to remind people, we went there because the Taliban was harboring al-Qaeda, which had launched an attack that killed 3,000 Americans. Al-Qaeda escaped capture, and they set up in the border regions between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda has affiliates that not only provide them safe harbor, but increasingly are willing to conduct their own terrorist operations. Initially in Afghanistan and in Pakistan, but increasingly directed against Western targets and targets of our allies as well. So it is absolutely critical that we dismantle that network of extremists that are willing to attack us. And they are currently, well, they absolutely are a threat to us. They're a significant threat to us. I wouldn't be deploying young men and women into harm's way if I didn't think that they were an absolute threat to us. Now, General McChrystal's strategy, which I think is the right one, is that we are going to clear out Taliban strongholds. We are going to strengthen the capacity of the Afghan military, and we are going to get them stood up in a way that allows us then to start drawing down our troops, but continuing to provide support for Afghan in its effort to create a stable government. It is a difficult process. At the same time, we've also got to work with Pakistan so that they are more effective partners in dealing with the extremists that are within their borders. And it is a big, messy process, but we are making progress in part because the young men and women under General McChrystal's supervision, as well as our coalition partners, are making enormous sacrifices, but also on the civilian side, we're starting to make progress in terms of building capacity that will allow us then to draw down with an effective partner. Okay. Jackie Combs, New York Times.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is this on? Okay. I want to follow up on something exchange you had with Chip. Leaving aside the existing permits for drilling in the Gulf, weeks before BP, you had called for expanded drilling. Do you now regret that decision, and why did you do so, knowing what you have described today about the sort of dysfunction in the MMS?
I continue to believe what I said at that time, which was that domestic oil production is an important part of our overall energy mix. It has to be part of an overall energy strategy. I also believe that it is insufficient to meet the needs of our future, which is why I've made huge investments in clean energy, why we continue to promote solar and wind and biodiesel and a whole range of other approaches, why we're putting so much emphasis on energy efficiency. But we're not going to be able to transition to these clean energy strategies right away. I mean, we're still years off and some technological breakthroughs away from being able to operate on purely a clean energy grid. During that time, we're going to be using oil. And to the extent that we're using oil, it makes sense for us to develop our oil and natural gas resources here in the United States and not simply rely on imports. That's important for our economy. That's important for economic growth. So the overall framework, which is to say domestic oil production should be part of our overall energy mix, I think continues to be the right one. Where I was wrong was in my belief that the oil companies had their act together when it came to worst-case scenarios. Now, that wasn't based on just my blind acceptance of their statements. The oil drilling has been going on in the Gulf, including deep water, for quite some time. And the record of accidents like this, we hadn't seen before. But it just takes one for us to have a wake-up call and recognize that claims that fail-safe procedures were in place, or that blowout preventers would function properly, or that valves would switch on and shut things off, that whether it's because of human error, because of the technology was faulty, because when you're operating at these depths you can't anticipate exactly what happens, those assumptions prove to be incorrect. And so I'm absolutely convinced that we have to do a thoroughgoing scrub of those safety procedures and those safety records. And we have to have confidence that even if it's just a 1 in a million shot, that we've got enough technology, know-how, that we can shut something like this down, not in a month, not in 6 weeks, but in 2 or 3 or 4 days. And I don't have that confidence right now.
If I can follow up.
Sure.
Are you sorry now, do you regret that your team had not done the reforms at the Minerals Management Service that you've subsequently called for? And I'm also curious as how it is that you didn't know about Ms. Birnbaum's resignation/firing before. Well,
you're assuming it was a firing. If it was a resignation, then she would have submitted a letter to Mr. Salazar this morning at a time when I had a whole bunch of other stuff going on.
You ruled out that she was fired.
Come on, Jackie, I don't know. I'm telling you, I found out about it this morning. So I don't yet know the circumstances, and Ken Salazar has been in testimony on the Hill. With respect to your first question, at MMS, Ken Salazar was in the process of making these reforms. But the point that I'm making is that obviously they weren't happening fast enough. If they had been happening fast enough, this might have been caught. Now, it's possible that it might not have been caught. All right? I mean, we could have gone through a whole new process for environmental review. You could have had a bunch of technical folks take a look at BP's plans, and they might have said, this meets industry standards. We haven't had an accident like this in 15 years, and we should go ahead. That's what this commission has to discover is, was this a systemic breakdown? Is this something that could happen once in a million times? Is it something that could happen once in 1,000 times or once every 5,000 times? What exactly are the risks involved? Now, let me make one broader point, though, about energy.